Today I'm going to show you how to take a response from a Google form like this, where you have a selection of a subject or something like that, where when it goes to the Google form, you want it to automatically route to the correct tab, whether that's a subject or a person or a department. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like when we submit this response. So when we submit this, we can see here it shows up in the form response, which is normal, but it's also now on the correct tab. And it did not add it to the other ones. All right, so let's just jump right in. So I'm gonna get you guys going in under 5 minutes, including the script. And then the rest of the video, I'm gonna go into some more use cases and some ways to modify this. What I'm going to explain right off the bat is the criteria we're gonna use for this simple setup. So what we're doing is we're using one of the things in the Google form, so in this case the subject, and each of these drop downs, the name corresponds exactly with the name of a tab in here. So this could be somebody's name or a department, subject, whatever it is. And in this case, for the simplest setup, we're just matching exactly to a tab. And so basically what I did was, once I set the Google form, then I had the columns here, and I basically just made a copy of that, duplicated it, and then I just basically kept the same columns, and all I did was change the tab name and the colors. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right into the app script. So extensions and app script, and we're starting from scratch. So once this is open, we'll go ahead and call this script project. And then what we're going to do here is we'll just call this route responses. And then we're going to use this E. So this E is the event object. It captures data about the form response. So the form response is pretty easy. We're just going to do let data equals E.values, and this is going to get the values from the response. And then what we're going to do is pull out from that. So that's going to be data like this. It'll be like timestamp, name, etc. Okay, so inside that, the array has a zero-based numbering system. And so our subject, the one here that we're going to use, is 0, 1, 2, 3. And so to reference that, we're going to say let subject equals data 3. Okay, so now we just need to get our spreadsheet. So we'll do spreadsheet app.get active spreadsheet, and then finally get our target tab. So sheet equals ss get sheet by name, and we have that subject, and that's the name of the tab. And then finally, we need to append that data. So far we've gotten the data from the form response. We've pulled out the subject, and I put in the wrong one there. Let's see, 0, 1, 2, 3. We'll do 3, and I think I typed in 0. We got our spreadsheet, and then we got the tab or sheet that we're going to put it on. So now we just need to drop that data on that sheet. So we can literally just do sheet.append row and data. All right, so we only have two things left to do. One is authorize and add the trigger, and we can do those both from the same screen. So we're going to go to triggers here on the clock symbol, and then we're going to add a trigger, and then we only have one function, so that's the function we want. Head, and then from spreadsheet is what we want, and then event type is going to be on form submit. So once we have all those set up, then we're going to click on save, and this is going to save that trigger, but also ask us to authorize. And so choose your account, and this is Google's legal disclaimer saying they did not build the app, they haven't verified it. And so if you build it yourself, it's going to be good to go. If this is someone else, you may want to review the code. But we're good to go, so we're going to click on advanced and go to script project. And then finally, we're going to click allow. And this is just the permissions it's asking. So it's asking access to spreadsheets and forms, so it can access this Google Sheet and that Google form. So we're going to click allow. And then there is our trigger. All right, so we should be all good to go to test this. And so let's take our Google form. This is the edit view here, so we can just click on this preview here, or from the Google Sheet, you can go to tools, manage form, and go to live form. So in the live form, let's make sure we clear here. So nothing here, nothing here. And let's go ahead and fill this out. So John Doe, john@doe.com, arts music, and sign me up. So we click submit. There is our response on the form responses, and there is our response on arts and music. So let's go ahead and make sure this is working for not just that one. Let's check out this one. So let's do Susie Q, and then Susie@q.com, and let's put her in language arts. English, please, and hit submit. Go here. So form responses, there's Susie Q. Language arts, there is Susie Q. All right, so let's just jump in first with some tips and tricks. So one thing to note is, let's say we've set this up, right? We got the script running, we got the Google form running, we got the Google Sheet running. And now if you go and add, delete, or edit questions, you want to make sure that you review both the Google Sheet. So if we add a column in here, for example, by adding a new question, let's go ahead and just do that real quick. Let's just add one here. Let's say phone number. If we go back to here, once this updates here, there's phone number. So now we have a new column. So what it automatically does is adds new columns to the right hand side. And so in this case, we might want to actually move this over here, which you can do. But then what we want to do is make sure we go through these other ones and add that new column. So this would be like your phone, for example. And we want to make sure every tab that is going to be related, that we do that on. So we can go ahead and delete this just for the moment now. Go back to form responses. And then once that syncs, we can delete that. One thing to note is if you try to delete a column that is synced to the Google form, then it won't allow you to do that. So it does give a little safety as far as you're not going to be able to delete a column if there's an active question on the Google form. So let's go into our other options. So first of all, let's look at what if we have our responses where we're picking subjects like this, but we want to modify these tab names so they don't exactly match. So let's just look at example here. What if we just do art? Maybe we want to make these all shorter so they fit a little easier. So now these do not match the text that's coming through. And so let's go ahead and go to the script. And so what we do in this case is this isn't going to work anymore because it's not going to match. And so what we need is an array like this. And so I'm just going to, instead of spending a couple minutes typing this out, I'm just going to copy this in. I'm going to break down what this is. So to create a new one, for example, you do let object equals, and we're using these curly braces. And then what we do is for each value, so in our selection here, we have art and music, geography, history, language arts, math, science, etc. So for each one of those that you want, you can put it in here, and then this colon, and then basically the tab name. And so what this is going to do is now we can come up with this tab name by doing some notation. So let's say let tab name equals subjects and subject. So what's happening here is this is the subject we're grabbing from the data. So arts and music. So that arts and music is what's living in this subject variable. And so in this subjects, what happens when you use this notation here is it's going to search for what we put in. So in this case, art and music, and it's going to return this. So this is your key and this is your value. So when you put the key into an object like this, it's going to return the value, which is in this case, the tab name. And so this is going to work just fine the way it is. The only thing we need to do here is change this from subject to tab name. So let's go ahead and save this and then see if we're still kicking on all cylinders. So let's say John Doe Jr. wants to sign up, and he's Johnny Jr. at Doe, and he's going for physical education. going stronger. So what we're expecting is that this is going to show up in this PE tab. And so let's go ahead and check it out. So there we go. So even though this tab is called PE, because we have this object in here, it's converting this physical education to PE. And so this will work no matter what you're doing. You just have to make sure that whatever you put in, any options, so this doesn't work well with a free form field. If they can just type in whatever they want, if they put in something like this, it's not going to work. And so you need to make sure it's either drop down or a drop down is the best, because multiple choice and checkboxes can put stuff in multiple things, and that just doesn't work as well. So it's a little more complicated than we're going to cover in this video. It is possible, it just becomes a little more complicated. So I would recommend using a drop down, whether it's subject like this or department or whatever you want it to be. Then that would be what you put in here, all the options, and then the tab names. So you can have multiple go in the same one. You can put in art, and so forth. So you can have multiple values go into the same tab like that. All right, so I don't have a bunch of stuff set up to do an if statement on this, but I'm going to show you how you could set up if statements for this. So inside an if, you do this, and this is where you set your conditions. And so in this case, we could do something like if subject equals to art and music, for example. Then we could say let target name. So the reason why we're setting this out here is because if we do a let target name in here, we can't access it outside here. So let's get rid of this since we're not doing that object anymore. So in this case, we're just going to update target name equals art. So what this does, and then we could repeat this. So we could do, what's our next one here? Geography. This could be geo. And so you could do something like this, repeat it for each one. And you could actually even use this if you don't want certain ones to go. So for example, if you want, maybe you don't have a tab for PE, you could do this for everything but PE and then route it that way. The other reason to do something like this is if you have multiple. So let's say name, or you had another selection here, maybe level. So let's add level real quick. Level, and we'll do drop down. So we do level 1, level 2, level 3. So let's go back to our form responses. So if we do level here, so I'm not going to run through the whole thing. I'm just going to put it, let's say, on art. Art. Let's do level. And let's actually duplicate this. And we're going to do art level 2 and art level 1. And so let's add, oh, we got it there. So let's do this. Let's do if subject equals that. So let's do level here equals data 4. And make sure we got that. Yes, we did. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have, let's refresh this real quick. Level 1, 2, 3. So, and level equals level 1. Target name equals level 1. So we can copy this and make it level 2, level 3, and update our levels here. So let's go ahead and make our level 3 real quick. Let's go ahead and delete this current data out of these, and then we'll run some new tests here. All right, so if we saved the script, so make sure you save it after any changes. So let's review real quick. So we're still grabbing the data, subject and level 3 and 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, subject and level is 4. And we're still getting the spreadsheet, and then we're getting target name, and then we're doing an if statement. If subject equals art and music, and so the double equals here is comparative. This is saying if subject is equal to. If you just did equals to, it's actually going to change subject to arts and music. So make sure you have 2 or 3 in a if statement. And then the double ampersand symbols is saying we want both of these. So we could do an or, for example, and we could do arts and music or levels 1, and then anything with level 1 would show up in arts and music. But we want both art and music and level equals level 1. And then we're setting the target name to art level 1. Let's make sure we have level, okay. And level 2, level 3. And then this should all be the same still. So let's go ahead and test this out. So let's do George Washington. George at Washington.com. Let's say he is level 1 and arts and music. Now, keep in mind, right now we only have arts and music set up. If it's any other, one thing I did miss. I need target name. Good thing we went back and checked. So right now, if we picked anything but art and music, it's not going to do anything. So I can show that here in a second once we do this. So sign me up. So George Washington should be in arts and music level 1. So if we look here, his name should pop up, both informed responses and art level 1. Let's go ahead and submit. And so, boom, there we go. So it did that correctly. So let's go ahead and do this again. Let's do Thomas Jefferson this time. Sometimes it's really hard to think of names on the fly. Almost did Thomas Edison there. ThomasJefferson.com. Let's put him as level 2. And then again, arts and music. We don't have any of the others set up. He's going to sign on the dotted line, that Declaration of Independence. So level 2, art music, Thomas Jefferson. So there it is on the main tab. And let's check out level 2. Boom, there it is. So not on 1 and not on 3. He's on level 2. So let's do one more. I think we've demoed that. So let's show what happens right now if we pick something else. And so I don't care at don'tcare.com. And it doesn't even matter what level. Let's just pick any other subject. So history. Can't find this. So at this point, we don't have the subject in any of these ifs. So nothing's going to happen here. And actually, it's probably going to result in error in the script. So let's go ahead and do submit. So if we go here, there's that one. So if we go to history, it's not there. If we go through these other ones, so P's John Doe Jr. So you can see it doesn't pop up in any of those. And if we go to this, it probably showed up with an error. Cannot read, results of null. And so what happened was, at the end of the day, this is still nothing. So it's considered null. And so it's trying to find that null sheet, obviously, which it could not find. Okay, so that's the basics of kind of quickly modifying some of these things. And so let's reset this to the way we had at the beginning. Okay, so let's get our object back in here instead of this. Make sure, get rid of that. We don't need that level anymore. So now we'll do let target name equals subjects and subject again like we had before. All right, so let's look at some other things. We're going to look at one more thing, and then we're going to do the email notifications. So what we're going to do now is, let's actually go to these. Let's get rid of this subject. So let's say we want to bring in the rest of it, but not the subject. So this is going to be relevant no matter if you want to just remove that determining column or if you want to plug in whatever data you want. All right, so we still have subject here. So now we have this data. We figure out the subject, we figure out the target name, but now we want to modify the data that we're pushing through. So let's do that down here. So let's do let's say new data, and then we're going to make our own array here. And then we'll call this new data, just make sure I don't forget to update that. So what originally is coming through was stuff like this. We put this in here. All right. So this is what we got in this last row, for example. And this is what it looked like as it comes through. So this data, that subject, if you remember, it starts with 0. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So there's a history. And so obviously didn't go correctly because we didn't have this in there at that time. But this would go to that history tab right there. Now, what we want to do is get rid of this one. And we just want to return the rest of the data. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. So there's a couple ways we can do this. So if you want the simplest way, it just takes a little more typing, you can just pick and choose what you want. So you can use this data and this numeric notation. So data 0, which would be this one. And then you do a comma between each column. So if you wanted to, for example, do the whole thing. So there's all of our data. And so if we did this, it would work the exact same way as it was before. So if we want to get rid of history, then all we'd have to do is not include this, just like this, and then that would work. So let's go ahead and check that out. And let's just use let's just delete some of this. And I'm actually going to show you one other thing real quick while we're on the tips and tricks. So I'm going to show you what happens if you just delete some data out of here like this. And we're going to check out what that looks like. Let me actually just clear all this real quick, just so we have a clean slate as we finish this up. All right, so I'm going to use John Doe again, since we just cleared out the data. And apparently I have trouble thinking of names here. So john@doe.com. And so let's just do geography and all around the world. Okay, so what we're expecting to happen is when we submit this, that the full thing is going to show up here, and then minus the subject is going to show up on here. So let's check it out. There we go. Bam, no subject. And there is a subject there. So if you notice, these are all empty. So what happened here? Well, this is a kind of a unique thing with Google Form. So when Google Form adds data, it actually keeps a record of what rows it was adding data on. And so if you just select some rows and delete it like we did before, it's going to pop at the bottom of that. So if you actually want to delete data out of the Google Sheet, then actually delete the rows. And then when you do that, it's going to pop on from there down. So just a quick tip while we're going. All right, so we got rid of that subject. And so now we have a little cleaner version on here. And so you can kind of do whatever you want with that. Another thing you could do, you could add data in here if you want to do something manually, like my note. You can pop it in wherever you want to. New note, and just make sure you do those comma separations. And then also make sure however many columns you have, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that then on these other tabs that they all have the same columns that you need for that. All right, so let's do the email notifications. So let's get rid of the sample data real quick, get all ourselves cleaned up here and ready to finish this up. So email notifications. So we got two different email notifications we could do. So we are capturing the emails in this data, for example here. Obviously these are fake emails. So there's two different options that we could do for these emails. Well, I guess there's more than two, but we're gonna focus on two. So one is sending an email back to the recipient. Now, one thing to note is you can actually set a default Let's see here. You can send responders a copy of the response. And that's if you do the collect email addresses. Collect emails by default. I think that was just the one there. Yep. So this would be send a copy of the response. And it requires collect email addresses, in which case it would have its own field for collecting emails. So we're collecting emails here, but Google Form doesn't know that's an email field. So if you do this, it has their own email field, and then you can get rid of that one. And that's the way you can do it through Google Form. But we're going to show you how to do it in the script, which actually allows more customization. And again, we're not going to get too much into detail on that, but I'm going to give you enough to start running with. So the other option is to actually send a notification to the people in charge of these tabs or departments. What does this look like? And again, I'm going to bring this through real quick here so we don't have to take 5 minutes typing this out. So what we're doing here is we just did this, right? The subjects. And so we tied together each possible response with the tab name. And so we're doing the exact same thing here, but now we're associating an email address with each one. So I'm going to show you how to write the script for this. I'm not actually going to run it because I don't know if these are valid or what's going on. So I don't want to accidentally send somebody an email if they happen to have that email account. But I will show you how to put this together. What we're going to use is called Mail App, send email, and then we're going to use this one right here. So you can see all the help text here. You can scroll down through this and see the different ways you can do this. So you can do it pretty quickly like this, just email address, subject, and body. I'm going to use this one. So in this one, you can see it uses an object just like we've been using above. So I already put my curly braces in. And then in here, you can see to, email address, subject, and then HTML body, which allows us to use HTML tags. And that's why I like using this method. So to, and then in this case, what we're going to do is we need to pick the email address from this. And so just like we did with this one, we're going to do the same thing here. And so we're going to do office emails, and then we're going to put that subject in there. And so what that's going to do is whatever subject they selected, it's going to plug it in here and find that value. So we have R2, and then we can do subject. And now I'm going to use, this may look a little different to you. I don't know if you can see this well enough. These are backticks, not single quotes. So single quotes is like this. There's double quotes, single quotes, and then these are backticks. So backticks on my keyboard are right above the tab. And when you use this, you can use something called template literals. And so you can Google that if you want to dive more into this. But the essence is you can use variables. So these are all variables. I declared them using this let. So let target name. So I'm declaring this variable target name. And I can put a value in that variable. So sorry that got a little technical just for a second. But what this means is, so I can take, let's say, subject and put it in here. So when I'm writing this, I don't know what they're picking. I don't know if they're picking arts and music, geography, history, etc. But when I do this, it's going to dynamically update based on what the data coming through is. So that's the beauty of these. So I could say new response received for subject. But if we're sending to that office, maybe we don't need subject, maybe we want their name. So let's pull out their name. Let's say let name equals data, and let's see which one it is. So name would be 01. So we could do that. And while we're at it, let's just get their email too, which is data2. There we go. So we have their name and their email now in these two new variables. So we could say, instead of for, we could say from, and there we go. New response received from name. Then finally, we could do HTML body. And again, we can do those backticks, and then we could figure out what we want to put in here. So we could include this again and say new response received from. We could add a link to it, for example, if we wanted to, using the HTML hrefs. And then we could do something like we have the spreadsheet here in SS. So we could get a link to it by doing ss.getURL. And that will give them a link to the spreadsheet. So let's close this out real quick. And then put Google Sheet, for example. And we could just say click, or we could say click here maybe to view response. So you can do anything like this. If you guys want to look deeper into this, just do a quick search on HTML and you can figure out what to put in here. As far as you could do bold, which is now like strong. Make sure you do the end tag there, which is /. You could do new lines. New lines is BR / and then close it. So it's a self-contained tag. You don't have to end it separately. You can do paragraphs. You can do hyperlinks just like we did there, which is just like this, and link label, and this would be URL that you put in there. So that should give you a couple ideas on what to do there. Other than that, I'm just going to let you Google that. So that's how you would send an email to the office, but I'm just going to comment that out. So I just did 2 /, and you can see it turn green, and that means this line is not going to run. So it's called commenting that code out. So what we do want to run is actually send an email to the person who submitted the form. So we're going to do 2, and then we have that email actually right here. So I can just type in email, and then let's do subject, and then we could say we received your response for, and now we could use, oh, I put double quotes. Normally that changes color there. Let's do that. And then I don't know if I explained this very well before, but inside the template tags, you use that $, and then 2 curly braces left and right. And then inside that, you put that template tag. So we received your response for subject, and then we could do HTML body. And then we could even say their name, hey, name. And let's add some new lines in here so it's not all running together. We received your response and are reviewing it now. We will get back to you shortly. Thank you. So actually we could put a couple new lines in here, and then at the end we could put BR, and maybe we could do that department. So the department or subject, we could do subject. We could do like that. So let's save that now. Now one thing to note is at the beginning when we set the trigger, we authorize a script, but we just added a new method. And so far all we referenced is the spreadsheet. If we reference something else, so mail app is referencing the mail sending capabilities, we're gonna have to reauthorize before this is going to work. So what we can do here, since we've already authorized it, we already set the trigger, we can just do run function from here. If you're doing this from scratch and you haven't authorized it yet, then you can go ahead and set up the trigger and it will ask you for all the permissions. But since we already ran it and asked for permissions, we're gonna have to do it again. So I'm just gonna do it from here. So run, and it's gonna ask me for new permissions. And again, same old deal. And so now we're adding send email as you. So let's go ahead and allow. And again, we're getting an error because this E does not have anything in it. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. So what we're expecting to happen is, we can go ahead and comment this out as well. This isn't relevant to what we're doing. And so I'm doing what's called a multi-line comment. So it's /*, and then to finish it, asterisk and /. So you can see this turned green, everything else is still fine. This is still fine here. So what we're expecting to happen is similar to what we had before. The last time we responded here, John Doe, and it went to geography. What we're expecting to happen now is that we're also going to get an email. And so I'm going to use my email here when we fill this out, just so I can show you that we receive an email in the end. So let's go ahead and do this. Sheets Ninja, and then Sheets Ninja Sensei at gmail.com. And let's say we need a little language arts in our life. Teach me English. All right, so before I submit, confirm our data, and go ahead and close this for now. So there's our script project, make sure that's saved. All right, so what I'm expecting is in LA tab, we should receive that. And then let me go ahead and open the Gmail. So there's an alert from Google because I authorized the script. Let's go ahead and close that. So what I'm expecting to see is a row show up here and an email show up in my inbox. So let's go ahead and submit this. First of all, let's check the Google Sheet. So there's my row there, teach me English. There's my form response, and let's check our email. Look at that. We received your response for language arts. And there you can see, even put that language arts in there before department. All right, so that was a load. So rewind, review a little bit, and then you'll be able to see what's happening. Hopefully this video was helpful for you. If so, please like and subscribe, and then check out my other videos for more tutorials on both Google Sheets and AppScript. Thanks guys, have a great day.